3.7 million. Just let that number sink in for a moment. That's not a city's population, or even a lottery jackpot that could change a few lives. It's the staggering, almost incomprehensible number of people who died in a single flood that most of us have never even heard of. Imagine that kind of loss. Resilience. In the next few minutes, we're going to step back in time and count down the deadliest punches planet Earth has ever thrown. Moments when nature reminded us just how fragile we really are. On the morning of September 8, 1900, American forecasters had a hunch. They thought a tropical storm churning in the Gulf might curve away from Texas, perhaps sparing the bustling boomtown of Galveston. But Mother Nature had other plans. Instead, it roared straight into Galveston, not just with fierce winds, but on a terrifying 15-foot wall of water. Winds topped a brutal 135 mph, ripping at everything in their path. But the true killer wasn't the wind. It was that monstrous surge, a relentless liquid fist that trapped Galveston's 37,000 residents between their wooden houses and the churning, unforgiving Gulf of Mexico. Can you imagine the horror? By sunset, nearly every other building was simply gone, vanished, as if it had never been there. Streets weren't just flooded. They were piled high with a grotesque mix of debris and the bodies of an estimated 8,000 souls. The storm was so utterly catastrophic, so soul-shakingly devastating, that it forced the U.S. Weather Service to completely ditch its antiquated no-scare tactics policy. From that day forward, they started issuing explicit, urgent warnings, an institutional change born from tragedy that, thankfully, still saves countless lives today. At 5:12 a.m. on April 18, 1906, most of San Francisco was still asleep. Then, out of nowhere, the San Andreas Fault snapped. It wasn't just a little shake, it was like the earth tearing apart. A 7.9 magnitude quake that ripped open roads like paper and twisted railway tracks into crazy shapes. And guess what? It broke every single water main just as stoves toppled and gas lamps shattered. The quake was terrifying, but the fires that followed were even worse. Firefighters could only stand by helplessly as neighborhoods went up in flames because the hydrants were dry. For 3 days, the city was an inferno. When it was all over, 28,000 buildings were reduced to ash, and about 3,400 lives were lost. But this disaster sparked a nationwide change, pushing for stricter building codes across America. In just a century, we've come so far with weather tracking, yet nature still throws us curveballs. Take Hurricane Maria in 2017, for instance. It ramped up from a Category 1 to a fierce Category 4 in just 24 hours. Talk about a power surge! As it tore through Puerto Rico, winds hit 175 mph, stripping mountainsides bare. Initially, the official death toll was just 64, which felt way too low given the chaos. But later studies revealed the heartbreaking truth. The real number soared to nearly 2,075, including indirect deaths from stress and untreated injuries. This wasn't just a storm. It was a complete system failure. In some remote towns, power was out for a year, showing that even in a wealthy territory, one brutal storm can throw everything back to the Stone Age. What a wake-up call! Let's shift our gaze to Southeast Asia, to Myanmar's Irrawaddy Delta. It's a vast, pancake-flat breadbasket, a vital region packed with rice paddies that feed millions and fishing villages that hug the coastline. On May 2, 2008, this tranquil landscape became a watery hell. Cyclone Nargis, a monstrous storm, sent a 12-foot surge racing an astonishing 25 miles inland. Imagine a wall of ocean water, relentlessly pushing across flat land, turning fertile farmland into a vast, brown, churning ocean. Satellite images taken afterward were chillingly stark. 95% of villages in the hardest-hit areas had simply been erased, washed away, as if they were never there. The human cost was amplified by a tragic political decision. Myanmar's military junta, isolated and suspicious, blocked most foreign aid for weeks. By the time they finally relented, the damage was irreversible. An estimated 138,000 people, a heartbreaking number of them children, had either drowned in the initial surge or died from waterborne diseases that spread like wildfire in the aftermath. The politics of refusal, the stubbornness in the face of such immense suffering, turned a horrifying weather event into a profound and cautionary tale about governance and humanity caught squarely in the crosshairs of climate and disaster. Haiti is sadly perched on a volatile fault line, a real geological time bomb. Port-au-Prince, its capital, had almost no seismic building codes, making it a ticking disaster of unreinforced concrete and brick. Then, on January 12, 2010, at 4:53 p.m., that disaster struck. A 7.0 magnitude earthquake slammed into Port-au-Prince, shaking the ground like ocean waves. Concrete roofs collapsed onto schools, churches, and even the presidential palace, crushing everything beneath. In just 30 seconds, around 316,000 people lost their lives, about the same as Pittsburgh's entire population disappearing. Another 1.5 million were suddenly homeless, living in makeshift shelters. The quake sparked the largest urban humanitarian response ever, revealing a harsh truth. Poverty turns natural disasters into unimaginable crises. Tangshan, back in 1976, was the heart of China's steel industry, buzzing with 1 million workers and blast furnaces running non-stop. But under this busy city, the earth was stirring. At 3:42 a.m. on July 28th, the ground shook violently with a massive 7.5 magnitude quake. It wasn't just a little shake, it was a powerful jolt that twisted railroad tracks like they were nothing. Most folks were asleep in their brick homes, totally unprepared. Buildings, made without any thought for earthquakes, collapsed in an instant, burying families alive. Official counts started at 242,000 deaths, but later estimates shot up to a staggering 655,000, marking it as one of the deadliest quakes ever. This disaster pushed Beijing to create a national earthquake early warning system, saving countless lives today. Picture the Ganges-Brahmaputra Delta, a vast, fertile area in what used to be East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. Its unique shape is like a giant funnel, perfectly set up to channel storm surges. When the Bola cyclone hit on November 12, 1970, that funnel turned deadly. A massive 30-foot wave crashed over islands just 6 feet above sea level. Can you imagine being there, watching that wall of water coming at you? Entire villages, built over generations, just disappeared. Relief workers found only shattered coconut tree stumps, the last signs of life. The slow and indifferent response from the Pakistani government sparked outrage among the East Pakistanis. This disaster wasn't just nature's fury. It ignited a fight for independence, leading to the birth of Bangladesh. Imagine this: the entire Mississippi basin submerged under 30 feet of water. Crazy, right? Now, picture that area tripled. That's what happened in China's Yangtze and Huai River systems in the summer of 1931. It was a perfect storm. Heavy snowmelt from the mountains combined with relentless monsoon rains. The mighty dikes, meant to protect the land, burst like paper, unleashing a massive flood. At least 145,000 people drowned in the initial wave, swept away by the raging waters. But the nightmare didn't end there. As the floodwaters stagnated, diseases like cholera and typhus spread through the weakened population, leading to a staggering 3.7 million deaths. This disaster didn't just leave a mark, it changed China's approach to flood control forever, leading to a focus on megadams and robust systems to prevent such horrors from happening again. Boxing Day 2004 is unforgettable, right? It hit us fast and hard. A massive 9.1 magnitude earthquake off Sumatra pushed the seafloor up by an insane 60 feet. This wasn't just a little shake. It sent a huge wall of water racing into motion, triggering devastating tsunamis. The first waves smashed into Indonesia in just 20 minutes, then reached Thailand in 90 minutes, and finally, they crossed oceans to hit Somalia 8 hours later. YouTube clips chillingly captured tourists on sunny beaches, blissfully unaware, only to be met by a monstrous wave erasing everything in its path. Banda Aceh faced almost total devastation, with around 167,000 lives lost in one province alone. In total, about 230,000 lives were tragically taken across 14 countries. But from this heartbreak, we saw something important rise: the Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning System, showing that even in chaos, humanity can unite and protect itself. Absolutely, we kicked things off with that shocking number, and it's worth repeating: 3.7 million lives lost. Just think about it. Imagine everyone in Los Angeles and Chicago gone in one devastating flood. The floods didn't just take lives. They wiped out about 15% of China's crucial rice crop, leaving millions starving. They forced 25 million people from their homes, sparking a massive refugee crisis that lasted for years. Relief workers bravely faced the chaos, describing horrific scenes: bodies blocking water wheels, canals running red with cholera, and the air thick with despair. No other natural disaster has ever come close to this staggering human toll, and we can only hope it never happens again. Nature doesn't send calendar invites or gentle warnings. It just shows up with a bang. These wild stories of history's deadliest disasters remind us that geography, poverty, and politics are real game changers. They can turn a bad day into a life-altering tragedy. If any of these tales blew your mind, hit that like button. Share in the comments which event hit home for you. And don't forget to subscribe for more history that keeps you up at night. Because really, understanding the past is the best warning system we've got for the future.